Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Make love to that subscribe button. Today, we're going to be talking about censorship, from some being a gray area to some being agreed with and others being a danger. Most people will pin any type of change or censorship as a danger and, a lack of free speech, wrong think. Now, censorship is relevant again because the Mass Effect Trilogy Legendary Edition is coming out recently and people are terrified of changes that are being made to things like camera angles. Mac Walters of BioWare says that he just doesn't agree with certain camera angles of Mass Effect, namely regarding the character of Miranda. There's one shot where she's talking about trying to save her family and then it's just a whole bunch of ass in your face.
I need to relocate my sister's family before it's too late.
Typical anime camera angle, Whereas they can't change the actual animations, they opted to change the camera angle. There's another instance where the female main character has her legs open and it zooms in. It would zoom in the same with a guy character, but if you have a skirt as the female character, they thought that would be a little bit weird. Now this has many people scared because Mass Effect is a beloved series and people rate it as highly as Knights of the Old Republic in the Hall of Fame of BioWare's golden days. The main defense that people have been saying as to why this is dangerous censorship is that Miranda is bionetically engineered to be the most voluptuous babe possible. I never played the games, it's always been in my backlog, so more of a reason for me to visit these remakes. But the changes to the trilogy I've been reading, I'm looking for stuff that would scream an actual directional change of things. The only changes I can find is the graphical overhaul, changes to the character creation, and a general consistent gameplay engine across the entire trilogy, which overhauls the gameplay for, let's say, Mass Effect 1 when they introduce things in Mass Effect 3. Think the Crash trilogy. A single used engine changes how you would play the first game versus just a HD version, but that's all I could find. There's some things omitted, like a Mass Effect 1 DLC they couldn't get a hold of for a funny reason. They actually outsourced the DLC. When they tried to retrieve or back up and restore the source code from this outsourced studio that had made this, well, it was corrupted. And from what I was reading online, it wasn't even a significant DLC. It added a training mode or something. But if all I could find is that they just changed the camera angles in some shots. Mac Walters didn't say every single shot that showed Miranda's ass, just simply the ones where it just felt inappropriate during the tone of the scene. People are saying there's a mass censorship around objectification of women. All right, calm down. Tonally, it does make sense in certain aspects to not emphasize gawking at some nice looking ass. Now that I pay attention to camera angles when I'm watching shows, it does take me out of the show sometimes when, you gotta make sure you get the ass and titty shot. No one is censoring it from gaming in general. Look at Bayonetta, a sexy female character that's done tonally correct. You're not supposed to take it seriously. And if Mass Effect is supposed to be taken seriously and Miranda feels the crutch of being genetically modified to being the perfect e-girl, does that really change the original director's vision of the series or anything? Nothing else was changed. Even one of the most controversial endings in video game history, the ending of Mass Effect 3, where they had to add DLC just to change the ending. It's a rated M game. They're leaving in the steamy end romance option cutscenes. Some other censorships I wanted to point out was the case with Nintendo and Atlas and Fire Emblem Sharp Encore, which is the port of the Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem mashup. Nintendo had to publicly apologize and refund pre-orders because the game was based on the international release, which didn't feature a swimsuit DLC, increased the age of the characters, and had made some outfits a little less risque. Now this one is more of a gray area for me, mainly because the only people that are affected are the people that purchased this game in Japan. And Westerners trying to virtue signal or talk about Japanese culture is a long-standing issue that I'm not going to get into. Personally, I'm okay with the localization changes. And me being in my boomer years, had we gotten the untouched version, that makes me uncomfortable. I just want to play a JRPG. I don't want to feel like I'm watching Netflix's cuties. And it's going for the whole idol pop sensation vibe. So I don't know, maybe that's a part of it. How dare they cut the beach episode out? Persona 5 also having an aspect of the beach episode cut out. And this had a lot of people worried the localizations team would mess up the game. All right, if these are the only openly gay characters in the game, you're telling me this isn't a little disrespectful? Oh, it's just a joke. You're such a baby. You can't handle a joke. I get it. It's the whole give them an inch, they take a mile mentality. The fear that you let these little subtle changes, you don't show an ass when a girl is crying about her family. You don't have the openly gay characters looking like a gay stereotype from the 80s and stealing teenagers off the streets. What are they gonna do now? Remove sex from games? This is all in the plan to make us all cat boys. I'm calling it now. They're trying to make us cat boys. Watch out. They're coming for your vagina bones. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, but I do think it's unwarranted fear. Anything that doesn't change the direction of the game, tone, character traits, I don't see as a problem. And the perfect example of this is the censorship of Winnie the Pooh in Kingdom Hearts for the Chinese version, because Winnie the Pooh was being used as a symbol of protest in China. Now, this is the censorship that we should be worrying about. The Chinese video game market is massive, and Chinese localizations to remove stuff like Winnie the Pooh and skeletons takes time. This is why the heavily censored Nintendo Switch was recently released in China, as well as the PS5 being released later this year. People are worried that developers are going to initially censor their games to be able to hit the Chinese market on day one. That's a scary thought when it comes to blatant restrictions that studios have, limiting their initial vision of a game just because of their limitations. This is obviously a somewhat sensitive topic, and I had to say my point of view, going from censorship or changes that I agree with, those that are gray area because I can't speak on another culture, but I agree with the international version of the games because it makes me less uncomfortable. So again, biased in my perspective only, and the bad kind of censorship that can change the initial vision of a game just to hit a certain market. All four of the games I mentioned as examples of censorship that I wanted to talk about, I never played. And a lot of these are fairly recent, so please, I want to see your opinions in the comments, even if you call me an enabler of censorship, or if you don't care about certain censorship, but your fear is that it will allow for the removal of large areas or even characters of games. And it's not about not being able to handle a girl's ass in a video game, but being in that we're in the entertainment medium, it's stuff that I have to talk about. There's a lot to unpack here. That's why I'm opening the grounds to discussion, especially those that totally disagree with my take. This is more of a theme dodump. I know I didn't really cover a lot of gaming news, but I wanted to look into an aspect that affects the whole industry as a whole, especially in the modern era of gaming. And with all these ports making people generally upset. Like, I recently played Resident Evil 5, and if they were to remake that game, like, do you think they would keep a lot of the same design decisions they did? Anyways, that's this discussion-y dodump. Y'all just got dumped on. Bye-bye.